Welcome back to Proverbs 31 Life. Today I'm asking, are you salty? You probably giggled at that. That term is used in the world a little differently, as like, you're upset or bitter or bothered or whatever. But this has a biblical application, and I want you to be salty. To be salty is a good thing in this context. So Matthew 5 verse 13 says, "Ye are the salt of the earth. But if the salt have lost his savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is henceforth good for nothing, but to be cast out and to be trodden under foot of men." This verse is part of the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus preached to the disciples, but it's also for us. First, he says that we are the salt of the earth. This is what I would like to focus on, this portion of this verse. Are is a present tense verb. This is part of your identity. It's who you are. It's what God expects from you. It's what happened when you got saved. You are the salt. He did not say, try to be the salt, or you should be the salt, or eventually you will be salty. Okay, that's not what he said. He said, you are salt. This is not something that you decide to be. You get to either live accordingly or not, but you are. But as we learned in this verse, the salt can lose its saltiness. It's still salt. It's still, like if you think of coarse salt, that coarse granule is still salt, but if it doesn't have the flavor anymore, well, it's useless salt. So that's kind of the analogy we're going with here. So what does salt do? You have to know what salt does in order to be salty. So here we go. Salt preserves. It protects from decay, from rot, from spoil. So, is this your testimony? Is that what you do? Are you protecting and preventing the decay in those around you? This is a pretty big deal, especially as a mom and a wife. As the salt of the earth, you should point others to Jesus. You are protecting and preserving their souls from hell. You are protecting and preventing decay in their spiritual life when you edify them, when you encourage them in the Lord, and when you point them to Christ, reminding them that He loves them, He has a will for them, that they need to get back in their prayer closet. This is part of your job. No matter where you are in life, you are to be the salt to those around you. If you are joining in on the gossip, the slander, the dirty jokes, the making fun of others, supporting sin, then you are not being salty. You are useless salt. That salt has lost its savor. As a mother and wife, we also are to be the salt of our home. It's up to you to model genuine biblical living in front of your children. We preserve and protect our homes by praying for them. This is the very first thing that you have to do. You must pray for protection over your home, your marriage, your children. Satan wants to destroy all of it. It is all spiritual warfare all the time. Salt protects. Prayer is your first line of defense. Your words and actions also should not bring decay to others. Proverbs 12:4 says, "A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness," that's decay, that's not being protective or preserving, "in his bones." As a wife, you have the power to drain the life out of your husband. And it happens pretty quickly, to drain the life out of him. Proverbs 14:1 says, "Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands." As a wife, you have the power to build or destroy your home. Be the preserving salt in your home that God has called you to be. As with salt, it doesn't take a lot to make a difference. You don't have to be an evangelist, a pastor's wife, a deacon's wife, a Sunday school teacher, anything like that. God is not asking for just a few people to be the salt. It's all of us that are saved. It doesn't take much to make a difference. It's that one text to a friend. It's that one offer to pray. It's being the hands and feet of Jesus. It's giving the gospel to someone. God's not asking you to get out here and street preach and perform miracles in order to be the salt, okay? It's the everyday things right here where people live. When a friend is struggling and you just show up and you say, "Hey, is there any, what do you need? What can I do?" You walk in and you wash the dishes and you turn the laundry and you go pick the kids up from school. You PayPal $5 for coffee, whatever it is. You babysit. You pray with them and just let them know that, I know it's hard right now, but God still loves you. You text them a verse and just, I know I know today's hard, or, I just felt like the Lord wanted me to give you this. I don't really know what's going on. You don't have to know all the details. You don't have to tell anybody else the details. Be the salt. Salt leaves food better when it's used in small quantities, leaves food better after the salt's come in contact with it than it was before. You should be leaving people closer to Jesus than they were before you got there. Salt seasons. Just as salt adds flavor or enhances existing flavor, we should be doing the same. You should be adding Jesus wherever you go and bringing out Jesus even more in the places that he already exists. Just because you're at church doesn't mean I don't have to encourage someone or give them a verse or pray for them because we're here and we all have Jesus. Not necessarily. This is bringing those who don't know Jesus to him and then encouraging those that do know him to keep going. You don't know who's about ready to quit. You don't know what pastor's wife is struggling. You don't know what pastor's ready to leave the ministry. You don't know what faithful servant is just ready to be done because they're exhausted and life is hard. You don't know. Be the salt. This world is exhausting, and other Christians need their faith encouraged. Colossians 4:6 gives a command, let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. Salt causes thirst. It's the next thing we're going to look at. Your life should make others want the living water inside of you. The life that you live, your testimony should make others thirsty for Jesus. For salt to have the greatest effectiveness, it must be pure. Matthew 5:13 says the salt was cast out into the dirt because it wasn't useful. It was mixed with the earth and no one wanted it anymore. No one was out there after it got put in the dirt and trodden underfoot. It was thrown out. No one was out there trying to pick it up so they could use it and go, oh, let's not waste it. Once it was mixed with the dirt, it's not pure anymore. No one wants dirt in their food. And the same is true for us. When you get mixed up with the world's dirt, you're not salty. You're not as salty as you should be. That flavor is not pure. In order to get the salt off, now it has to be washed. And no one's going to do that. They're just going to move on and go find some more salt. No one cares what a Christian says when they look like the world. God calls us to be pure. You must keep your saltiness in order to have an impact on those around you. This is not asking for perfection, by the way. That's not what this is. For others to see Jesus in us, we must be careful with our words, our actions, and reactions. How do you speak? Is your language that of cursing, mocking, belittling, gossip, complaining? What about your actions? Where do you go? What do you watch, read, listen to? Are you selfish, prideful, negative, hateful, angry? All these things are not pointing other people to Jesus. How do you react in challenging circumstances or when you're offended? This is what the world is looking at. This is what other Christians are looking at to go, they're struggling and they're trying to, find a glimmer of hope and you're complaining. It's not helping anyone. The world is watching. Your kids are watching. When Christians speak, act, and react like the world, they've lost their savor. And the world is not thirsty for what we have. The hope that we say is within us, they don't believe it because they don't see it. Our words, actions, and reactions must preserve, season, and cause others to thirst. We must reflect Christ. This is a big deal. As a spouse and a parent, this is vital to your home. Your children absolutely have got to see this from you. The world, the flesh, and the devil will tell them that they don't need to, that they don't need Jesus, that they're okay, that they are enough. They're not. You're not. We're not. Okay, Christ is enough. But we must preserve our homes through prayer and purity. That will make our children thirst for our Savior that we claim to love so dearly. If you are a wife and a mother, don't wait for your husband to do this. You get to start. You get to be this example to your kids. You can be the prayer warrior of your home. You can bring your family to Christ. You just have to trust him. Through prayer and purity, be salty. Stay in the Word. Stay close to the shepherd and let him lead you in paths of righteousness.